his finger over the Torah, a line in the Torah, and by doing that, he tried to change the location of words, you know. Chapter 4, verse number 46, it says, among those who are Jews, there are some, not all, who displace words from their right places, and that is corruption. The word here, yuharrifun, is what corruption is meant for. So if you displace words from their location, you are doing corruption for the book of God. And if you read the story, you will see that Jew only, he put his finger over the Torah line, which is speaking about stoning to death. And according to Muhammad, that is a scam. That is a cheating. That is not right. That is corruption. But look what happened. The story here, by the way, doesn't make sense because Muhammad don't speak Hebrew. So how he knew that he is hiding the verse by his finger? The story, all of it, obviously is a fabrication of the fabricator who is following a fabricator. His name is Muhammad. But if we go back to the Quran, chapter 96 is number 1. And if you change the location of verses or words from their places, that is a corruption according to chapter 4, verse number 46. So Muslims immediately, they have to agree that they corrupted their book because 96 is number 1, not 96. Who are you to make it and move it? If Allah gave it to you in the beginning, how it become at the end of the Quran? And then you will see here in chapter 96 something very weird. In the name of Allah, the merciful, the compassionate, which is very weird. And you will notice there's no number 1 next to that. Number 1 start here. So the Muslims are adding lines to the Quran, which is not part of the Quran. And the funny is they say, we will never add a word, we will never take a word. But as you see, the whole line is not even part of the Quran. This is why it's not counted and it's not number 1. Then if we go to chapter Al-Fatiha, which is a topic today, chapter 1, which is not a chapter 1, you will see they are copying what is mentioned here and they are putting it in chapter 96. Here we ask ourselves, did Allah forget to mention his name Ar-Rahman? Chapter number 1 says Al-Fatiha, which is the opening, which is not the opening, which means the Muslims, they add that word Al-Fatiha later to make it the opening when it is not the opening. Because this is not what Allah, he gave Muhammad to open the recitation of the Quran with. As we see, it was Iqra, which means read. And that statement is very funny and very stupid because Muhammad did not know how to read. So why Allah will say to him, read? A smart Muslim, he says here, the word Iqra mean recite. That even more stupid because if you say to somebody recite, how he can say, I cannot recite when he just said the word, which is recite. You did recite already by saying recite. So chapter of Al-Fatiha is not authentic. It's not the true name. This is a name the Muslims, they added as a fabrication. Then if we go and read together, you will see before we spoke about the name of Allah, if you remember, you can watch a previous video. Allah is not one word. Allah is 2 words, Al and La. And this is why in verse number 2, we will see it says Alhamdulillah, not Allah. You will notice that the words are not looking the same, even if you don't speak Arabic. You will notice differences. The first word here have a letter. And let me try to highlight for you so you can notice it in case you don't speak Arabic. If we look here, and let us zoom in a little bit. You will notice in the front of this word, in the beginning, there is this letter. I will put a dot underneath of it. Here, it's not exist. When the Muslim read the first verse, they say Bismillahi, Bism, and Bism, by the way, is wrong because there is no such a thing in Arabic. So the Muslims, in order to make recitation right, or let us say easy, they took the letter alif from the word, and that is a corruption. Are you fixing Allah words just to recite it? So Allah, he say bi ism, you say bisim, and you change the language. So bi ism, not bisim, bi ismillahi, Allahi, and then what here happening? Alhamdulillahi, li is a word mean, or letter mean to. La is the name of the God of Islam. So the part of the God of Islam name is here, not all of it, only the last two letters, La. And you will notice here with me, when the Muslims, they speak of the name of their God, and they say Allah, suddenly here Allah is not Allah, is Li Lah, because Li, which Hamd, like speak good of him, to Lah, speak good of Lah. The Muslim translation is very funny. I don't approve any Muslim translation, as you know, but we will use it for the purpose of exposing Muslim false translation. In the name of Allah. If you look at the title I have, it says it doesn't make sense. Why? Well, if Allah is talking, how in the world he say in the name of Allah? I am talking, I am a Christian prince, I will not say in the name of Christian prince. People will laugh at me. That will be silly. Only stupid people, maybe like Joe Biden, they will say in the name of Joe Biden, because this guy, he forget who is he. So the Muslims, you ask them how and why Allah is saying in the name of Allah. The Muslim right away, they will say to you, Allah is saying to us, say in the name of Allah. But where it says say, nowhere to be found. In the Quran, there's tons of verses where Allah, he said to Muhammad, say. So, which mean, if Allah did not say, say, well, he did not say, say. So why you are adding things is not there. So if we go in the Quran and we search for the word say, we will find tons of it. This is the word say in Arabic. Qul, 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 qul. All those verses, all those chapters, Allah saying say, 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 say. You see all the yellow one? Qul, 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 qul. So in order to make this chapter correct, that Allah saying to the Muslims say, he should add that word. And if Allah, he added all over the place, why he did not add it here? Simply Muslims cannot answer. And you know, one of the funny verses we see in front of us on the screen, it says that Allah is asking those who don't believe in him to bring a proof. You know, one of the funny things that Muslims, if we ask them, I saw once a video of a Christian brother. He is from Pakistan. A Muslim, he asked him, are you going to prove to me that Jesus is God from the Bible? What is your proof? The Christian brother, he did not answer in what he should answer. You should say to him, don't you Muslims, you say, what is the proof of Allah? Knowing about Jesus, you will say the Quran. But the Quran is a one-man person. There's no witnesses. There's nobody. Nobody saw Muhammad seeing anyone. He never even spoke to Allah, according to Muslims. Here you will see in chapter 2, verse 111, it says, they say, none shall enter paradise unless he is a Jew or a Christian. Well, this is their wishful. They are making a wish. Say to them, bring your proof if you are right in your claim. Hey Muslims, can we do the same to you? Prove to us that you will go to heaven if you are right. Actually, the Quran says the opposite. And now we are asking you, if Allah in chapter 1, which is not the chapter 1, Allah saying say, will give us the proof where he says say. So how this chapter makes sense doesn't make sense, because Allah should not say in the name of Allah unless there is a word here say in the name of Allah, which means Allah teaching you how to pray. But Allah, did he forget to say the word say? So I advise you to add it to make more sense of this chapter, which is not even a chapter. So in the name of Allah, and then you will see the Muslims here trying to deceive us with the translation, saying the most beneficent, the most merciful. But if you go to the words here, you see Ar-Rahman, and Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim is the same word. Ar-Rahman is description of the one who is a merciful. Ar-Rahim is description of somebody. He is a mercy, or he is, you know, who he give mercy, or he do mercy, merciful act. So both of them is the same. So the Muslims, in order to avoid the embarrassment, so he said, in the name of the beneficent, the most merciful. But nowhere here it says most, and nowhere it says beneficent. Both of them saying Rahman and Rahim, which mean merciful, merciful. But because that does not make sense, so the Muslim, they have to add different translation for the verse by saying the most beneficent, which is very silly to say. And then you will notice Allah saying all praise and thanks to Allah. This is the Muslim translation, by the way, which I don't approve, but I will go with it just for the sake of the exposure. Why Allah want to say all praise and thanks to Allah? And Allah, as you see, did not say to the Muslims, pray to me like this. Like, you know, when the Christian, they asked Jesus how to pray, he said, speak like this, our Father art of heaven. So, like this, like that, pray like that. Here, Allah never said this is a prayer to pray. Allah never says, say and repeat after me. Allah never says, this is a prayer for all Muslims. And supposedly Allah is speaking to who? To Allah, not to the Muslims. If you read carefully, you will see, in the name of Allah, who is the audience? The Muslim, they will say to you, this is the Jibreel, the angel speaking to Muhammad. Well, now that make more sense, but that make the Quran is the word of Jibreel, not the word of Allah. So Jibreel saying in the name of Allah, because Jibreel is not Allah, that makes sense. The Muslim, they say, no, 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 no. Jibreel is just a delivery person. He don't speak, he don't make Quran, he speak Quran, which means he recite the Quran to Muhammad. So Allah, he tell him, go, this is the Quran you have to deliver. Jibreel, he go to Muhammad, he said to him, whatever he want to say to him, because Allah is the one is talking. Jibreel is just a voice of delivery. So if Jibreel is not talking, he is just reciting the words. This is not his own words, and Allah is talking. That is very stupid. It doesn't make sense. And obviously Allah speaking to other God, in the name of other God. Maybe Allah, he have a higher God than him. Maybe there's many Allah. In the same time, if Allah is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, why this name did not appear in the beginning of Islam? In the beginning of Islam, there's no Allah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. There's, if you go right now, if we search in front of you, when the first time the word Rahman appear, you will find the Quran itself expose the answer. You know, there's tons of chapters in the Quran, and we try to find, like, as we showed you, the Quran, the Muslims is adding in chapter 96, verse number 1. It doesn't say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It doesn't say in the name of Allah, but the Muslims, they added there, if you remember. But we will notice later, the Muslims, the Arab, they ask Muhammad, why you are calling your God Ar-Rahman? Where this name is coming from? Muhammad, he says, all beautiful names belong to Allah. So I call him Rahman or I call him different name, it doesn't matter. Chapter 17, verse number 110. If you go and read the interpretation for this verse, you will see that Arab, they asking Muhammad, how come suddenly you are calling him Ar-Rahman? You never called him Ar-Rahman before. Why his name now is Ar-Rahman? So if Allah, he speak in the name of Allah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, well, this should be appear from the beginning of Islam, not at the end of Muhammad life. You know, if we ask Muslims, chapter 17 in the Quran, as you see, this is chapter 17. When this chapter happened, chapter 17 Isra mean the time or the journey of Muhammad. Muhammad, he claimed that Allah, he sent him a mule have two wings, and he took him to the seventh heaven, and a very funny, stupid journey, and no witness for it as usual. And, you know, when you have no witness, you have no crime, you know, and nobody can prove you wrong or right. So, all this time, Muhammad never, ever said the word Ar-Rahman. But if we go and search in the Muslim website, you can go right now and search Quran according to Revelation. You will see that the first or the real number of Al-Isra, which is a chapter number 17 in the Quran today, or most of the Quran today, according to Muslims, in the original Quran, chapter 17 was a chapter 50. Chapter 50. All the Quran is 114 chapters. So half of the life of Muhammad is gone, and yet Muhammad did not mention the name of his God. Never mention it as Ar-Rahman. If we ask Muslims why, well, good luck with that. You are asking people who do not know anything about the religion. If you ask the scholars, they will say the scholars agree about not to agree about the reason. Always Muslims, to avoid any question which is an embarrassment for this cult, they say Allah knows best. And for sure Allah knows best. Who knows better than Allah? Are you kidding me? He knows best always, which is very laughable. Allah who knows best, Allah who knows nothing, Allah who cannot explain, Allah who forgot to mention that his name is Ar-Rahman to Muhammad, and then suddenly we find that Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim is in every chapter almost, except At-Tawbah. Everywhere you open the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But then we don't find that until chapter 17, which is a chapter 50, as you see. Let me zoom on the screen so you can see with me. This is a Muslim website.